Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Beis, Daf 102 of Masechta Yevamos. Friends, Daf Kuf Beis talks about shoes. Before you get excited, it's really not that interesting. I'm kidding. But we talk about shoes. Let's go weiter. I went to design school, of course, and in my class there was a shoe designer. Let's go weiter. All right, so we're going to start on Daf Kuf Aleph from Beis all the way at the bottom Amar Rava, and now we are at the top of Kuf Beis Amar Aleph. Ger donas chaveru dvar Torah. So a ger, a proselyte, can judge a fellow proselyte dine nefashos. Now, as Rashi points out, dine mominus, anybody can judge dine mominus, but for dine nefashos, we're saying that a proselyte can judge another proselyte, but not a Yisrael. It's interesting that we're seeing some distinctions in the last few days between a Yisrael and a ger, which is kind of interesting. Okay. Gerdon is chaver dvar tere shenemer. As the pasuk says, "Som tasum alecha melech," that you shall place upon yourself a king. And Rashi says that sort of king is interchangeable with judge. Either whatever applies to a judge will apply to, or I guess whatever applies to a king will apply to judge as well. As Rashi points out, the pasuk says, "Melech b'mishpat yaim b'aretz," that a king with justice upholds the land. So we compare a king to justice. So when the pasuk says to somtasus alecha melech, when the pasuk says place upon yourself a king, asher yivcha Hashem lekecha bo, that the Eibishter will choose him, mikerev achecha tasum alecha melech, that from among your brothers you will place upon yourself a king, alecha hu deba'inon mikerev achecha, that for you it has to be from among your brethren, i.e. A Yisrael needs to be judged by Yisrael. Aval ger donas chaver ger, but a proselyte can judge a fellow proselyte. V'im aisa imam Yisrael. Now, if the proselyte's mother was from the Jewish nation, i.e., not herself a proselyte, dona filu Yisrael, so then this proselyte can judge a Israelite. Wait, so what does that mean if his mother was a Jew? Wouldn't that make him a Jew? Then how can he be a proselyte? I didn't really think about that, I guess. What does that mean? Remaisa imum Yisrael? Dana filu Yisrael? The heck does that mean? Excuse me. I think it's basically just saying that if his mother's Jewish, then if his mother's a Bas Yisrael, then he's Yisrael, and therefore he could judge Yisrael. Okay, fine. Remaisa imum Yisrael dana filu Yisrael fanu linin chalitza but with regard to chalitza, both his father and his mother would have to be from Israel. So, like if he has a father who converted to Judaism, he would not be able to be on the panel of chalitza judges. Shenem, as the pasuk says, "V'nikashmo b'Yisrael," that his name will be called among Yisrael. That it has to be Yisrael from father and mother in order to be on the judge panel for chalitza. Amar Rabba, Amar of Kana, Amar Rav. Im Yav Eliyahu v'Yomar. If Elijah the prophet will come and he will say, Choltzin b'minol shomen lo, that you're allowed to do chalitza with a shoe. Well, I don't know, the article doesn't translate as a shoe. He keeps on saying minol versus sandal. So preference is to do chalitza with a sandal, right? As we saw in the Mishnah, as we're going to mention again in a few minutes, that what does it say? It says choltzu b'minol chalitza s'ksher. That if you use a minol, so then I don't know. Can I translate minol as shoe and sandal as sandal? I feel like it might just make it easier for us to discuss because our main language of explanation is English. So maybe I'll say minol as shoe and sandal as sandal, but the preference goes to the sandal. As the Mishnah says, that if you use a shoe, it's ksher, it works, but it's not ideal. Really, you want to use a sandal. So, if Elijah the prophet will come and say, Choltzin b'minol, that you're allowed to do chalitza with a minol, with a shoe, shomen lo, so we'll listen to him. Now, as is going to be important in a few minutes, the implication being that as long as Elijah the prophet does not come and tell us that we can use a minol, then we can't. Or at least not lichatchila. Ein cholzim besandal and shomelo. If Elijah the prophet would say that you're not allowed to do chalitza with a sandal, then we do not listen to him. Shekfar nagu on besandal, because the minig is already to use a sandal. That's really interesting also. What the heck does that mean? If Elijah the prophet comes and says don't do chalitza with a sandal, we ignore him because the minig is to use a sandal? He's freaking Elijah the prophet, for crying out loud. Super interesting stuff. What does that mean? Rav Yosef Amar says Rav Yosef Amar Rav Kana Amar Rav. So the first one was Rabba Amar Rav Kana Amar Rav. This is Rav Yosef Amar Rav Kana Amar Rav. If Elijah the prophet will come and say, Ein cholzin b'minol shomen lo, you do not do chalitza with a minol, with a shoe. Shomen lo, so then we listen to him. Implying that, right, if he would say, don't use a shoe, then we'll listen to him, implying that as long as Elijah has not come and says, don't use the shoe, you can use the shoe even lechatchila. Ein cholzin b'sandal, ein shomen lo, if he says, don't use a sandal, we don't listen to him. Shekvar nago on besandal, because the minig is ready to use a sandal. My benai, what's the nafkamina between Rabba and Rav Yosef? Benai, the nafkamina is minol lichatchila. Can you use a minol? Can you use a shoe lichatchila? According to Rabba, who says that if Elijah the prophet comes and says you can use it, at that point you could use it. So then implying that otherwise it's b'diavad. Whereas Rav Yosef says, no, if Elijah the prophet says don't use it, so then you don't use it, but otherwise you can use it even lichatchila. So the nafkamina between Rabba and Rav Yosef is can use a minol, can use a shoe lichatchila. Fine. Now, where am I? So according to Rav Yosef, who says that you can use a shoe even lichatchila, ve'atnan, but we learned in a Mishnah, in our Mishnah, cholza b'minol chalitza siksheret, that if she does chalitza with a shoe, chalitza siksheret, so the chalitza works. Di'evid lichatchila, look, it works. It's not ideal. So the Gemara says, "U'adin da'afilu lichatchila." Nah, or as I like to say, meh. Really, the Mishnah, when it says that if you use a shoe, it's kosher, it doesn't mean b'di'evid, it means lichatchila. But since that the Mishnah continues and says that if you use a sock instead of a shoe or a sandal, you use a sock, so then it's psula da'afilu di'evid, and that means even b'di'evid it's psula. You can't use a sock. Tananami reisha. So the reisha, the first part of the Mishnah says as well di'evid, a lashon of b'di'evid, that we're saying, okay, so you can use a shoe and it's kosher. It sounds like it's b'di'evid, but the truth is, Rav Yosef would say that even the lichatchila you can use a minol, a shoe. U'minol lichatchila tanoi, and whether or not you can use a shoe lichatchila is a machlokas tanoim. The Tanya is within the Brayso. So Rav Yossi says, Rav Yossi pam achas halachta l'Nitzivan. Where is Nitzivan? It's probably like somewhere in northern Israel. Nitzivan. Anybody live in Nitzivan? Doubtful. Matzasi zaken echad, and so it says Rav Yossi, one time he was visiting Nitzivan and he found a certain elder, Amartilo, and says Rav Yossi that he says to this fellow, Klumata baki Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. No, you know anything about Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira? Maybe Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira was from Nitzivan. Amali, hey, and this zaken echad, he says, yeah, of course. Balshulchani utadir, Taka eats at my house all the time. So Yevamos says, have you ever seen him perform yibum, chalitza? So this Zaken Echad says, of course, I've seen Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira perform chalitza many times. B'minol or b'sandal. So Yossi says, okay, and so did he use a minol or did he use a sandal? Did he use a shoe or did he use a sandal? Omarli, and the Zaken Echad says, huh? What are you asking? Obviously, he used a sandal. Can you even do chalitza b'chlal with a minol? Says Rabbi Yossi, I said to him, well, Reb Meir, right? Stam Mishnah Reb Meir, our Mishnah says that if you do chalitza with a minol, it works. Where did Reb Meir get that from? He got that from Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. I guess the implication being that Reb Meir was a student of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, I guess. Which can make sense, because Reb Meir was definitely a student of Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva, I think, was sort of a contemporary of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. But anyways, okay. Fine. So we see what? So we see that Reb Meir's opinion is that b'di'eved you can do right. That chalitza is b'di'eved. That using a minol is b'di'eved. Rabbi Yaakov Omer Mishnah Mo, whereas Rabbi Yaakov says in the name of Reb Meir, choltzin b'minol lechatchila, that you can do chalitza with a minol even lechatchila. Right? That's what Rabbi Yaakov says in the name of Reb Meir. So we see two different opinions of Reb Meir. One, like our Mishnah, that using a minol is b'di'eved, but Rabbi Yaakov says in the name of Reb Meir that using a minol is take lechatchila. Now, uman de'omer lechatchila lo. Now, according to the opinion that really you should not use a minol, my timer, how come? If you're going to say, well, okay, I think the panta is the top part of the shoe, and the arkisa is like the straps on top of the top part of the shoe. So if that's the case, so if we're talking about a shoe, well then there's, I guess, is there something on the shoe called the tongue? Maybe that's like the arkisa, and then you have the straps on top of that. So therefore, if you have a shoe like that, so the pasuk says, now what does the pasuk say? The pasuk says, "V'nigsha yevimto elav le'eni azkeni v'cholta nalo mei al raglo," and she chapsarain the shoe from his foot, and we need it to be mei al, from above, and not from above what's above. And if you have a shoe that has the top part and then the straps on top of that, so the straps would be what's above that, which is above his foot, which is the double above. We need a single above. Got it? Good. If that's the case, but if it's about, a shoe doesn't work because it's two layers and we need only one layer. But if that's the case, then you shouldn't be able to use a shoe at all. But according to this opinion, we're saying that you could at least use a shoe b'di'eved. So rather, the Gemara says no. The reason why we don't use a shoe is because gzeira shem minol merufat. Well, what? Right? Gzeira mishum minol merufat. Well, we're concerned that what if the shoe is torn? If the shoe is torn, it wouldn't work, and we're concerned about a torn shoe, and shoes are softer than sandals. All right. Inami, alternatively, mishum chatzi minol. What if you only have half of a shoe? That could be a problem as well. Amar Rav, says Rav, ilav de chamise lechabivi de cholotz besandal this leishinsin. Says Rav, if not for the fact that I saw my uncle, Reb Chia, my uncle, perform chalitza with a sandal that had upon it straps, I would have specifically thought to do chalitza with a Arabic sandal, which is stronger. But alright, but Rav says he saw his uncle Reb Chia do chalitza with a sandal with regular straps, and that seems to have been okay. Vaididon, and our sandals, afagav de izbe chumrisa, even though they have a knot on it, katrinan be misno, I guess that keeps it on tight. Nonetheless, we tie a strap, so we could have the best possible chalitza experience. Siman HaTorah's Yevamos sandal. Okay, the Gemara is giving us some mnemonics to help us out. Let's go weiter. Review the Merav. HaTorah's Yevamos l'shuk b'shmitas rova ekev. So it says of Yudah in the name of Rab that, chalitza, so she removes the shoe from the foot of the fellow, of her brother-in-law. So now, once she removes the shoe from the majority of his ankle, yeah, that's the akev, right? The ankle. The heel, the heel, I'm sorry. The heel. Whew, that was a close one. So, Atar Zivam L'Shuk B'Shmitas Rova Ekev. When the majority of the heel has been removed from the shoe, she can now go and marry whoever she wants. If the straps of the minol or the sandal came out on their own, i.e. she did not remove them, they became undone on their own, or sheshamat rova a regel, or that he, the brother-in-law, removed the majority of his foot, chalitzasa psula, so then the chalitza does not work. Time deshamathu. The reason why it doesn't work is because he removed half of his foot. Hasham tahi chalitzasa ksheir. But if she removed half of his foot, or the majority of his foot, so then it would be a kosher chalitza, rova regel in, Rova Ekev Lo. And we want to imply that, you see, she has to remove most of his foot, not simply most of the heel. So, Lo, Hainu Rova Regel, Hainu Rova Ekev. No. The majority of the foot and the majority of the heel is the same inyan. Ve'amai karulei Rova Regel. So why do they call it the majority of the foot if it's really talking about the majority of the heel? The chulechayla de kara ole dochis. Because the majority of the weight of his leg rests upon the heel. So therefore heel and leg are kind of interchangeable. The Rabbi Yanai, in this taka supports Rabbi Yanai, the Rabbi Yanai, ben sheyiter hu v'shamta he, whether he undid the shoes and she removed the shoe, ben sheytira he v'shamatu, or whether she undid the straps and he removed the shoe, chalitza psula, it's a puzzle, chalitza achetatir he v'tashmet he, she has to do everything. She has to undo the shoe, she has to remove the shoe, she's got to do everything. Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Yanai asks a kasha, karai teu mau, what if she tore the shoe around his foot? So she didn't remove the shoe from his foot, she tore it off the foot. Sarafteu, or she burned it. She burnt the shoe, and now the shoe's gone. Mau, galui karabin and ve'ika. So do we say, look, the point is to expose the foot of the brother-in-law, and she's exposed the foot of the brother-in-law. Or maybe she has to remove the shoe, and by tearing the shoe, or by burning the shoe, she hasn't removed the shoe. Take it, we don't know the answer. Reb Nechemia taka asks from Rabbi Shnemin Olim Zel Gavzeh. If you have two shoes, one on top of the other, you're wearing two pairs of shoes. What do you want me to tell you? Friends, seriously, what do you want me to tell you? She's wearing one shoe inside of another shoe. Two layers of shoes. Ma, what do we say? Fine. So, well, if you're going to say that, so you removed the top shoe, but you left the bottom shoe. The pasuk says you have to remove the shoe from his foot, not from what's up, not from on top of, or you have to remove the shoe from upon his foot, not from upon what is upon his foot. So the double-decker shoe isn't so good over here. No, she tore open the top one, then removed the bottom one, but left the top one. Do we say, well, it's about removing the shoe, and she removed the shoe. She removed, right? She was wearing the shoe, but inside of another shoe. She removed the shoe that was on her foot, but there's still another shoe on top that left on her foot. Friends, what do I mean to tell you? Or maybe we need to reveal the foot, and the foot isn't revealed because the outer shoe is still darting. I don't understand. Is there such a thing? Of course, the Chazio Rabbanon Rab Yehuda Denafik B'Chamsha Zuze Muke L'Shuka. Okay, that apparently Rav Yehuda would go out wearing 5 pairs of shoes to the market. Okay, I guess one pair inside of another pair. Somebody told me the other day that I was able to make them yawn through a phone. Like what were we doing? I think maybe we were in a Zoom call, and I think we both had our videos off. And I think I must have yawned. I guess I was tired. And I think she caught the yawn through the audio. I guess I have a strong yawn. Omer Rav Yehuda Amarav says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Yevamos shegdila ben ha'achin. So what if you have a Yevama, right? Reuven dies, and he's got a wife, Sarah, and nobody does Yibum, nobody does Chalitza, and I don't know, maybe she's a Ketana, Chveisnish, I don't know, but whatever it is, she ends up growing up with the rest of the brothers. They don't do Yibum, they don't do Chalitza. I mean, she's a Yevama, there's a Zika there, but they just seem to be ignoring it, and she lives in the house with them like a sibling. Alright. Eventually, if they decide to, she could marry one of the brothers, i.e., do Yibum with one of the brothers, because there never was Yibum or Chalitza till this point. And we're not concerned, but wait, maybe over the course of these years, she one time removed the shoe from one of their feet. I don't know, she took off the shoes of one. Maybe he was playing basketball and he twisted his ankle and she was giving him first aid and she took off his shoe. So we're not concerned that maybe she took off the shoe and it was like a chalitza. Now we want to imply that the reason is because we never witnessed this. We never witnessed her take off a shoe from the foot of one of the brothers. Implying that if we would see her remove the shoe from the brother, so then we'd have to be concerned, well, maybe they both had kavanah for chalitza. But 1 second, we learn in the Brisa, whether he had kavanah for chalitza but she didn't, or whether she had kavanah for chalitza but he didn't. I don't know what I said, but in one case it was one way, the other case it was the opposite. Chalitza psula, the chalitza doesn't count. They both need to have kavanah for yibum, and therefore, if she's applying first aid to him or something, it's not going to be a kosher chalitza even if we saw them do it. So this is what it's saying. Even if we see them, ein choshishim, we're not concerned shemakivnu, that maybe they had kavanah. No, we don't assume that there was kavanah, and even if we saw it, they could still get, she could still marry one of the brothers if they want to. Those who say, the reason why she can marry one of the brothers is specifically because we did not see her ever remove a shoe from his foot. But if we would see her taking the shoe off of the foot of one of the brothers, then we would certainly be concerned that maybe it was chalitza and they cannot get married. With katana by kavana, what about the brisa which talks about kavana, that you need to have kavana? Yeah, you need to have proper kavana in order for her to be able to marry all the other people. But even if there isn't kavana, even if she cannot get married to other people, but she would still be possible to the other brothers, and therefore, if we saw her removing the shoe from one of the brothers, so then they would not be able to get married in the future. Rav says, if you're in the name of Rav, sandal atofer b'pishton. If you have a sandal that was sewn with linen, okay, they had a shoe, they sewed it with linen. In chotzin bo, you cannot use it for a chalitza. Shneimar, the pasuk says, "Ven olech." Wait, am I reading that right? Ven olech tachash, and I will shoe you with tachash, which is the leather from the tachash animal. And so it has to be leather. You can't have any linen over there. So maybe I'll say, okay, so maybe it has to be the leather of a tachash animal, but no other leather, not like a cow's leather. Na'al riba. We have two psukim that say na'al, so it's going to include even other kinds of leathers. Na'al riba, afilu kol mile. But if we're saying that we're including other things, maybe it includes things even not leathers, maybe even linen. So imkein tachash mayahanile. If that's the case, then why does it mention tachash? It mentions it to say that it needs to be leather, so it has to be leather, it can't be anything else, but it doesn't have to be specifically tachash leather, it could be any kind of leather. Bo mine, Rabbi Elazar asked Rab, who shall or v'trisosov shall say armao? What if the shoe is made of leather, but the straps are made out of hair? So says Rab, who cares? It's still made out of this animal. If that's the case, kulo say or nami? Can I have a shoe made entirely out of hair? How karka mikre? But it's not a sandal that is a karka, and we don't want karkas. Omler of Kahana l'Shmuel, says of Kahana to Shmuel. How do we know that when it says that she chaltzas his shoe from his foot? How do we know that it means mishalefu? How do we know that it means that she removes, that chalitza is the removal of the shoe from the foot? The pasuk says, "V'chiltzu es ha'avonim sheboin anega." It says by, one second, let me read that. So make sure. Where am I? V'chiltzu es ha'avonim sheboin gosh. 1 second, let me see if I can read this. Noga? I think it's Noga. Alright. Yeah, dude, tiny little symbols are hard to read. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old. And they remove the stones that have the naga. So we see that v'chiltzu means to remove, but ve'ema zeru. Maybe it means to strengthen. Maybe it means to put it on. The pasuk says, strengthen from among you men for the army. No, it's to remove the people from the house to go to fight. Wait, am I reading that right? That a poor fellow will be strengthened through his tribulations. No, here also means that through the reward of his having experienced poverty, he will be removed from the judgment of hell. Okay. But what about the pasuk that says Sorry, I just got a little stuck. What about the pasuk that says that the Eibishter, surrounds or camps out around those who fear him, and he strengthens them. No, it means to remove. That, and the reward for these people having feared the Eibishter is going to remove them from the judgment of hell. What about the pasuk that says, "In your bones I will strengthen"? This is the most geschmack of the brachas. And it means to strengthen the bones, like milk. In mashmachi. So Gemara concedes. Okay, fine. Chalitza can mean to remove, but it could also mean to strengthen, and in our case, to potentially put on the foot. So, but in the case of chalitza, it enters your mind to say that it means to put the shoe on the foot. Then it should say that she puts the shoe on his foot. But here it says me'al raglo, from the foot, so it means that she removes the shoe from the foot. But the Gemara says that's not such a good proof, because if it did say biraglo on his foot, I might think so. Meaning it could be referring to putting the shoe on the foot. But if it said biraglo, I might think that it has to be the foot, but not like if he is an amputee. So let's say his foot is missing, but he has like an ankle. So I might think that would not work. So it says that's why it says above his foot, even if it's above his foot, right? Even if it's like his shin. But still, could have said, and she puts the shoe on the part that's above his foot. My me'al raglo, what does it mean? From his foot? It means to remove the shoe. A certain Nudnik says to Rabbi Gamliel, that the Yidden are a nation that the Eibishter has removed himself from them. The pasuk says, that with their sheep and with their cattle they will go to beseech, to request the Eibishter, and they will not find Cholatz Mem, because the Eibishter has removed himself from them. Omar le shote. So Gamliel says, you nudnik. Miksiv Cholatz loyim. It doesn't say that the Eibishter did chalitza to them, which would mean that he separated himself, that he did chalitza. Cholatz Mem means he received chalitza from the Yidden. What? And say the Yevama, she did chalitza, right? She got chalitza from the brothers, right? The brothers removed the shoe from her foot. It means jack squat. So here also, it's not right. It's saying the Eibishter received chalitza from the Yidden. Jack squat. Friends, that was that. We're going to stop here. We have a shtickle early, but if we don't stop here, we got to do a whole bunch tomorrow. So why not stop here, huh? Well, that was Daf Kuf Beis Masechet Yevamos. Friends, we basically learned about shoes and stuff, kind of, and we say that better to use a sandal than a shoe. Although we did see that there was an opinion that says that there's kind of two opinions. So machlokas between Rabbah and Rav Yosef. Rabbah says that shoes are b'diavad. Rav Yosef says that they're even l'chatchilim. We saw it's taka machlokas tanoim that Rav Yossi understands Rav Meir as being b'diavad with regard to shoes, whereas Rav Yaakov says in the name of Rav Meir that shoes can even be l'chatchila. Friends, That was Daf Kuf Beis Masechta Yevamos. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.